A student named Bianca was exploring to a site called YouTube when a video caught her attention. Curiosity entered her mind, so she decided to watch it.
Oops, where's your ID?
Sorry, I left it in our home.
No, rules are rules.
Guys, look at that guy.
Who's that? He doesn't go to our school, right?
Yeah, probably just some guy who would cause a fight.
An outsider to be exact.
Good thing our school guard is strict.
True, he reminds me a lot of plasma membrane.
Huh? What do you mean?
Let us explain something. Plasma membrane serves as the barrier of the internal and external environment of all cells. With this, cells can communicate with each other by identifying themselves and sharing information. And just like a schoolyard, it also regulates what goes in and what goes out of a cell. But how exactly does plasma membrane choose which particles enter and exit the cell? Well, that's because of its semi-permeable characteristic, which is important in maintaining homeostasis. However, in order to perform these rules, the cell membrane components need to work together properly.
Cell membrane is mainly made out of lipids, particularly the phospholipid bilayer, hence its other name. These two layers of lipid molecules are amphiphilic or has a love-hate relationship with water since it has a hydrophilic head pointing outside and hydrophobic tail forming the inside of the bilayer, creating the main fabric of the membrane. In between two of these bilayers are cholesterol, which is another form of lipids that regulates the fluidity of the cell membrane so it would stay stabilized. Associated with the phospholipid bilayers are the proteins, specifically the integral protein that is integrated within the lipids and the peripheral proteins which are seen on the surface or interior of the bilayer. These two both help cells to communicate and also assist in the transport of substances. You can also see carbohydrate bound to proteins or lipids which help cells to recognize each other.
Cell membrane indeed has more components than what you probably thought. In fact, it is described as a fluid mosaic model because its components are arranged in a mosaic pattern, causing it to move constantly, just like a fluid. To gain a greater than understanding of this, did you know that bubbles and cell membranes have a lot in common?
For instance, let us take bubbles in straws. Dip the straws gently in a tray of the bubble solution just like how you lift it back up. Once you try to move it up and down, you will notice that the film bounces smoothly and it doesn't break easily. We can simply relate this to the structure of the cell membrane being fluid and very rigid at the same time. On the other hand, when you try to stick a dry finger or object to the film, the bubble will instantly pop. But if you coat your finger or an object with the bubble solution before inserting it through the film, it will not burst and will self-sear instead. Because of the semi-permeability and the mosaic nature of the cell membrane, it wraps around the specific particle that has similar solution as it passes through, allowing the membrane to get back in shape after. These specific particles can actually be transported into and out of the cell in a passive or active way.
Passive transport requires no energy to work, since the molecules naturally flow from a region of high concentration to a region of low concentration, continuing until it is equal in both sides. For this to happen, there needs to be a concentration gradient, or the difference in the amount of solutes in both the intracellular and the extracellular, since it is the one causing the molecules to move between the two areas.
Although water molecules, specifically hydrogen, are polar, it is also a small molecule that can pass directly through the phospholipids. The only thing is that the water-fearing tail of the bilayer prevents the water molecules from crossing the membrane smoothly. This is what we call osmosis, or the diffusion of water across a semi-permeable membrane. The water flow is determined by the tonicity, which depends on the amount of the solute substances of the solution that surrounds a cell. A solution can be hypertonic, causing cells to shrink, hypotonic, making the cells expand, or isotonic, where the cells remains intact.
However, not all water molecules can pass through the phospholipid directly, and here is where facilitated diffusions come in. It is when molecules diffuses across the cell membrane with assistance from transmembrane proteins, called the channel proteins and carrier proteins. These form a passageway for ions, large molecules, and polar molecules to cross the cell membrane. Let us once again go back to the bubble lab to gain a deeper understanding about this. Take a loop of a thread and gently lay it onto the film surface, then break the bubble inside the loop using an object. As you can see, dry objects can now go through the film without making it pop. The loop symbol symbolizes the integral or transmembrane proteins. It's like how the object made the thread expand and move. These proteins are also able to drip to the lipid bilayer in the cell membrane.
In contrast, active transport requires energy to happen. This is where the transmembrane proteins are energized by ATP to force molecules move against a concentration gradient. However, transmembrane proteins are also very specific to particular substances, requiring large molecules to go through a process called the exocytosis, where cells extract materials out of the cell, and endocytosis, where cells take the materials. There are three types of endocytosis. Phagocytosis is a cellular eating, pinocytosis is a cellular drinking, and lastly, the receptor-mediated endocytosis, which uses special receptor proteins to initiate endocytosis.
Wow, I didn't know cell membrane goes through all that. I thought it is all about being
I'm glad you now know, and I hope that you will keep that in mind.
You too. If you're watching this video, I hope you learned something.
And don't forget to bring your ID so you won't be mistaken as an outsider. I'm your classmate and we're already late for our first subject. Let's go!
So that's the purpose of plasma membrane to all cells. I will send the link of this video to my friends so that they can also get an idea about the plasma membrane.